This episode of the CMO Suite is brought to you by Uconnect. Uconnect is the premier provider of managed and in-house servicing in the biddable media space. If you're looking for true transparency with paid social, PPC, or programmatic, or are a brand or agency looking into in-housing your team, connect with Uconnect. Uconnect.com and Toomey. Toomey provides luxury without limits. I've got the bag. I've got the backpack. Thank you, Charlie Cole. If you are a business traveler, there is nothing that lets you roll in style like Toomey. It's in the studio with me today. That's true. And finally, No Kid Hungry. We are incredibly proud to make a contribution to No Kid Hungry in the name of each of our 2019 guests. Stop by nokidhungry.org today to contribute and help kids to be kids, not be hungry. Mike, let's start the show.
You're in the CMO Suite, the podcast for marketers who want to be in the know. Presented by Connectivity Holdings.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CMO Suite. This is Sean Halter. We are in New York. This is the last part of our recording this month. I am with Shri Rajagopalan. Did I said it right, Shri?
You nailed it, man.
I can't believe I nailed it. Shri currently leads Johnson&Johnson's transformation into the digital retail for the consumer businesses North American region. We are calling this week Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. We had Legends Week a few months back with all these amazing names and legends in the business. This week, it's all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll because we've had some of my friends in from iHeart. We've had Columbia Records in. We've had drug companies in. And so I'm going to throw you in that mix at least a little bit, Shri. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you indeed. And before we even start this conversation,
please,
thank you for giving back to the community.
Well, you got to try, right? This is a great chance for all of us to learn, and that's the thing I think I'm finding out along the way is the ability to be able to use everything that I've picked up in this space. I started at Nickelodeon hosting game shows, and then I was in radio sales for iHeart for quite a while, and then I jumped into the agency space, and then I bought into some digital companies, and I think getting a chance to use all those things is what makes podcasts so amazing, especially if you try to at least make it about the guests.
1,000%. My personal belief now in life, having come to this country 25 odd years ago with $50 in my pocket and 2 suitcases of 64 pounds that most of the graduate students took away from me anyway, is if you are privileged in life and you reach a certain position where you're comfortable, you live on planet Earth. I believe now we're put on planet Earth to uplift others. It's life's number one mission, uplift others.
You know, you said $50 in your pocket and 2 suitcases, about 65 pounds. That's pretty
64
much
each.
That's still my life. I feel like that's usually what I travel to in New York with our podcasting equipment when we don't have the studio.
Let me tell you something, Sean.
I'm living your life of 20 years ago. Go
25
ahead.
years. I started as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
I've gone through 7-8 iterations of different functions, working everything from IT to sales leadership to now running e-commerce to being an out there digital leader in the industry. You're so right, though. I still have suitcases, and looks like nothing's changed in life, huh?
And maybe that's part of the good part, right? Is you still have the ability to be able to
Indeed.
control your life and control your destiny. And again, the beauty of this space and some of the evolution that's taking place in this this space is that for those of us that are willing to kind of do the work, those of us that yearn for learning, to me, there's no better time. When I first started, you had a book. I mean, my first sales job, I think my manager gave me a couple of books and said, this is how you learn. And an actual phone book. Kids these days would not know what an actual phone book looks like. That was my learning. There was no podcast. There was no videos. There was no YouTube. There was no way to learn from industry experts.
But I personally cannot thank you enough for actually doing this thing called
thanks.
the CMO Suite and doing this podcast, because content is king or queen. And like you said, the generation today, for them to receive messaging, this is the best way, whether at the gym, whether they're biking, whatever they choose for leisure, entertainment, learning. This is one of the best vehicles. I personally listened to your podcast at the gym last night.
Really? Which episode?
And you got my feedback on quite a few of them, actually, on LinkedIn.
Oh,
Yep.
that my LinkedIn will be blown up today then.
Uh-huh.
What episode did you listen to last
A
night?
whole bunch. Last night I listened to the one with the elderly woman in it. And I'm not going to spoil your surprise. There's a comment on LinkedIn
Okay.
I've left on that.
Listen, I'll leave that one there. The show has been fun. It certainly, the first season was a little bit of a labor of love, and I want to make sure we spend some time talking about the podcast that you do and the joy that you have found in it. I think one of the things that I was finding most challenging was, for people my age that are in this industry, there's so much to learn, and sometimes there shouldn't be embarrassment in not knowing the difference between behavioral targeting and contextual targeting. But a lot of times you don't have a peer to know who to ask that question to I had to fake it before you made it sometimes on some early calls when we invested in one of our digital companies. We were actually on a call with somebody and they were asking us, what do you use this DSP or what do you use for this other thing? And I was like, we don't disclose that information. I didn't know how to answer the question, and I should. I had invested in the company, but hopefully everybody gets a little something out of some of these episodes. We try to make sure that we have a nice varied enough guest list and that we don't have kind of the same questions each time. And it gives us all a chance maybe to learn along the way. Certainly, I feel like I'm learning.
You're talking about targeting in the industry, and I get about a lot in the industry. I'm also a very active LinkedIn blogger. What I notice is targeting is the next level, behavioral or contextual. I still run into people in the industry who are asking me what SEO and SEM is and what the difference is. So a lot of messaging that I try to put out, it's like you said, the right thing to do, which is for everybody. We should always make people comfortable to ask any question that they want, even on your show. Ask anything you want, man.
Yeah.
And our response should be such that we always welcome you and we can give you an answer that you can actually learn, leverage, and do something with.
I think it's also okay to say, I don't know.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
And maybe that's, again, part of the beauty of what we're all learning as marketers, that sometimes when somebody asks you a question, it's okay to say no. Or if you run a company, I know sometimes I think what's been great for me is when I have people that will ask me a question, I'll answer it. And this is when you know you have the right employees. When your employee taps you on the shoulder and says, that's the way we actually used to do it, but this is how we kind of do it now, Sean. That's when you know
Absolutely.
you've got the right people.
Real life
supporting
example,
you.
last night after dinner experience, my 14-year-old, who's also an actress, by the way, she's been on Blacklist. She just came off work with Michelle Obama on the Global Girls Alliance launching that campaign. She asked me for help on math last night. She normally doesn't ask me for help in schoolwork, so I was actually thrilled. I'm getting pulled in to sit down. Plus, it's half hour with her, priceless with that generation. And guess what the topic was? Trigonometry. And I had to do what you just said. I don't know.
Yeah.
And to my daughter's credit, she looked at me and she said, I'll figure it out. She made me feel unembarrassed that I don't know. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, you're lucky you have that daughter. Mine would probably ridicule me. Actually, they're smart enough not to ask me about math.
Later on that night, I know there were text messages floating around saying my dad has no clue about trigonometry, so let's not run that far.
That's fair. So you've got a daughter. Any other kids?
19-year-old was actually a musician, www.riyarajmusic.com, RHEARAJMUSIC. My weeks and weekends are very different. I work for Johnson&Johnson. I'm a digital leader. You know that I also have the eTalk show with one of my friends in the industry, Don Brett, where we
You do. I love Don
videocast.
Brett.
And Don and I are very good friends. But on the weekends, my wife actually runs a record label. It's called Valdio Records. Obviously,
there's the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The record label. There it is. You tied it. You figured out a way to tie it all in.
I said
Shree.
my wife, not me.
Well,
But
it's close enough.
this
Through
weekend,
osmosis.
I had the unparalleled joy of watching my older daughter actually on set doing music videos. And there were 4 sets. One was in a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Hey, I got to sit in it. How about that, huh?
That's fun.
My W2 income hasn't gotten me there yet, but my daughter did.
Did you post some pictures on
Absolutely.
your gram?
It's coming.
I'll have to follow you
It's
there.
coming,
that's for
man.
sure.
And another one was in New Jersey in a jewelry store. But the best part of this was actually the yacht scene on the Hudson, which was really cool with sunset in the background. And then I got to watch her perform twice, one at 1 a.m. on Friday, Saturday morning technically, and another one at 2 a.m. Sunday morning. And so, you know what? I'm probably an example of life is colorful. You adapt to meet needs. And I'm learning every single. I didn't know M of music till my daughters got into the entertainment business, but I'm learning every single day.
I think one of the things that's also interesting is doesn't matter what position you have from a marketing standpoint, it's finding the right balance. We're all trying to look for that to some extent, and it's okay if you don't have pure balance. Jen Say from Levi's, she was brutally honest. She said there is no. I do not have life balance. Sometimes I have work, and sometimes I don't. But especially if you have kids, I think that's one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm struggling a little bit with trying to ensure that my companies stay focused, that what I have a passion for outside of that kind of work, which is things like podcasting, that I dedicate the right amount of time to it, but I also make sure that I'm specifically making time to spend time with them because time, as Bon and Bo said to me on one of these podcasts, that's your most valuable thing. It's your time. It's not the possessions that you have or the money that you gain along the way. It's the time.
Did you
never
did
get
you say
that back.
Bonin?
I did.
He and I are great friends too.
Had
We
Bonin
worked
on the
together at
show.
PepsiCo.
He's a an amazing individual. I've been lucky, Sri. I'm a poor kid from North College Hill in Ohio. That's probably the heart of Trump country. I don't have a right to be doing this show some days. Some days I feel like I don't have a right to be doing this, to be having an opportunity to sit with some of the people that I sit with. But they're all tied together sometimes. And I think if you treat them respectfully and with love, then everybody talks.
Let me tell you something, Sean. I don't deserve the right to be here on the show either. I'm born Sri Lankan, raised in Calcutta, India. I'm sure all your viewers and you have heard of the City of Joy. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. But here we are. We're having this conversation on change. This is not just about digital change. We're having a conversation on life. And as you and I reflect on it, I feel you and I have earned the right to be here, but we're doing something amazing here. It's not even the right to be here and we've earned it. We're trying to give back. We're trying to tell people our stories. You and I are great examples of anyone can make it in the greatest country on earth called the United States of America. And that's why you and I are here doing this in the first place. But I wanted to get back to work-life balance for a second, because my philosophy on work-life balance is I run 24/7. If some people tell me I'm crazy, they say, when do you get sleep? I actually get plenty of sleep. I've just adjusted my life to work a 24/7 life because everything I touch, I think, is fun. I work a job because what I get to do is unique and it's fun. I go see my daughters perform at 2 a.m. because it's fun. I'm on a music video set because I'm also the Uber driver for my kids, which I didn't tell you. Free plug-in for Uber, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah, I should say be the taxi driver for them. And I don't get paid to do that. But on top of that, I get to see them. It's fun. The e-talk show I do with Don, it's a lot of fun. We talk about what we think is game-changing and people can actually benefit from. But I truly believe work-life balance in 2019 is not so much what I think is wrong or right, or what you may think is wrong or right. Think about today's generation. They're truly on 24/7. I'll give you another real-life example. Same 14-year-old daughter, and I'll have my wife.
So you have two daughters,
I have
a 14
and 19.
And a 19-year-old.
I'm going to have my wife text us a picture later today. But live TV was running in the background, so we love watching it wasn't even live, actually. It was the
A DVR.
on-demand DVR. We love the FBI show on CBS. We love that show. We watch it. That's our family thing. And it's running in the background, and they go through these 2-minute ad routines in between, like 5 times over. When the ad routine happens, she has got a phone on. She's Instagramming and texting at the same time. AirPods in the ear, listening to music. When you and I were 14, there were no AirPods.
I was trying to listen to my dad's Cheech and Chong records. I mean, that was...
If we could get our hands on them, and if it was a good day, we could find them, and we were allowed to operate the darn recorder. But my point was, for that generation, they're capable, and they've been trained, and they're raised by themselves. It's not like we tell them to do 4 things at the same. That's how they like it. If you're going to meet them halfway, and I work for a CPG company. You're putting out a podcast. You have to be able to talk to them when they want to hear you, how they want to hear you, where they want to hear you. That is work-life balance.
Or they won't talk to you.
Absolutely. That's so I don't believe in a 9-to-5 environment, but I practice work-life balance both ways. I put in 24 hours a day. I also take back 24 hours. There's a time in the day on a Wednesday at 3 p.m. I may take time off to go see the dentist, or I may go out with a staff member from work or somebody in the community for a late brunch. I practice work-life balance both ways. I put in as much as I take out of the system, and I believe that's what work-life balance is. It's different for everybody, but no one should walk in assuming work-life balance is a one-way story where you just get back. You got to put in as well.
How long have you been in the position that you're in right now?
So I have a new role at J&J. I'm actually leading digital new business models. As a company, we have evolved that far now. When I joined in April 2015, e-commerce was a new word, kind of. We were just starting this thing up. We're way past all that now. We have dedicated teams in supply chain and marketing, digital content, SEOs in our DNA today. Our agency, our SEM investments are in an MMX. How about that, huh?
Don't you think that there's a goodness in that to some extent, though? It puts you literally at the point of consumption. It puts you at the point of consumer. And so by being that close to consumer, it allows you to, as a brand, to either live or die with less guesswork. Consumers can now tell you almost instantaneously whether your brand is in the right spot or not. And so it doesn't take 4 years to turn a ship around to figure out that this ad campaign that you ran with 25 billboards 2 years ago wasn't effective.
Absolutely. My humble belief, if we fast forward a year, I'm not even talking 5 years, 2020, it's just a year away. Launching innovation in our industry will be 100% digital. I am starting to learn more and more in discussions with retailers that as you launch innovation, they're asking for more data. Tell me why I should take you more than unprecedented than ever before. And if you start practicing launching innovation D2C as a test and get data back and you have compelling results, it makes your innovation launch much easier. And when you launch it via digital, the best way for you to gain feedback is direct one-on-one conversations with the consumer. And when we say one-on-one, it's not email. Email used to be the way and will always be a way. There's still an open rate for email. Email actually works even today. But it's those social vehicles. That's where today's generation is. And there's no ifs, there's no buts. Instagram, Facebook. Instagram, Facebook. And I listen to Gary V as well every single day. I mean, if I'm not listening to you, I'm listening to Gary V.
Listen,
And
thanks for even putting me in the same city. But he's right. There's a lot of people out there who may be stuck in this world where they feel like, why should I have to put out my own content? Or what if I only get 5 likes? Or what if only 10 people see this? And at the same time, that's the only way to talk to people anymore. You have to have content. You have to be developing your content channel. And that's really how we want to learn. That's how we know, like, and trust people, is through the opportunity to interact with them that way. One of my guests called this almost a post-advertising world. And there's some beauty in the fact that their point was advertising sometimes is this, it's this puffy cloud out here of magicness where we're trying to sell you something, and instead being able to provide the kind of content that consumers want to consume now, it allows them to get closer to what you're really solving, or allows them to seek out brands that are looking to solve
1,000%. You have my full agreement here, right? To me, advertising has evolved from what used to be owned by TV. No, nothing new here, no magic here, surprise here. For the TV format, mass advertising was the way to go because that's how consumers consumed content.
Yep.
And that's how a brand was built as a result to deliver the equity. We must never forget, every brand's goal at the end of the day is to deliver an efficacy for the consumer, what they want. The consumer is king or queen. That's the only thing that matters on planet Earth. As long as you deliver for them, life's going to be all good. That's a mantra no one should ever forget. Today's vehicle, how they consume content, is one-on-one. It's on their feed on social media. And no longer do I think of social media as Instagram and Facebook. LinkedIn is a big social media vehicle. And here's another little tip. Why, if you're working, if you run a business, you need to be putting content on LinkedIn. It's the only platform where the organic reach still exists. And that's why I love it personally too. And that's why I'm there.
They're making some adjustments to that lately, Sri. I noticed that with my feed sometimes. Listen, that's the business we all need to be in. We need to be in the non-LinkedIn brand development. I've only seen a couple platforms out there to even attempt to try to compete with LinkedIn, and they don't do a very good job. But we yearn for that as business marketers. We yearn for it. We yearn to learn more content. We yearn for what our contemporaries feel like are good vehicles to do that. Gary obviously has built the mold on that. I have a buddy of mine. They have a program where you can, basically sign up to be part of the Gary V team, whatever that is. And I sat through one of the presentations, and there's a legitimate point to it. All of what they preach and practice are all things about brand building and development to some extent. And maybe for those CEOs that do end up signing up for that, it's because they need that extra nudge. They need that extra piece. And really, honestly, who better to probably provide them some level of that? iHeart does a version of podcasting kind of in the same space, and they also seem to be a precursor to that. So speaking of podcasting, I want to make sure that we save some time to talk about yours. How do you know Don Brett?
Ran into each other in the industry. Believe it or not, we followed each other on LinkedIn. We knew who we were.
And that crazy beard thing he has didn't scare you away from him at all?
I was actually at his house last week. So down in Atlanta, that's where we shot we shot about the next 10 episodes. Bunch of great guests coming on. We have Jamie Davidson, the Amazon 3P king himself. We have Oscar, ex-Kellogg, ex-Mondelez, talking about the globalization of e-commerce. We have Danny Silverman from Edge by Essential. We shot an episode at the Atlanta airport, it was just fun in the making. Oh,
that's pretty cool.
That was just fun in the making. So you'll get some awesome sights and sounds on that one. We have some executive recruiters in the industry from the big companies like Ward Howell, et cetera, coming to talk to us about the DNA of digital talent. So Don and I we met in Grocery Talk and Shop Talk, the industry standard forums. And I usually keynote at a bunch of these. And we started chatting, and one day we wrote to each other and said, Don, our messaging is pretty similar. What we do is we speak the truth about digital revolution in the industry. What we're doing individually here is we're reaching probably diverse audiences, but if we brought our message together, we can probably amplify our message to those diverse audiences and probably also help them grow at 10x the pace.
Yeah, so he stalks me on LinkedIn sometimes, which is good. That's how I met him. And then I didn't realize you guys were doing the show together until he told me that he was doing it. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. It's a small world to some extent.
You
When
know,
I'm in
Sean, we got to
Atlanta, I'm
have
gonna
you
look him
on.
up.
That's,
I've told
we
him that.
need to have you on. And what we'd love to hear from you, Sean, is just the DNA
All the things
of
I've done wrong so that you can learn those along the way.
well, that those lessons are must do, by the way.
They are.
Because our role in life, especially the older I get, is if we've done something wrong or we feel we don't want to repeat something we've done, why not pass that on to the next generation or someone? It's not even an age thing. It's whoever wants to learn what not to do so they can get it right, or they can get a fine-tuned version of what's wrong, which is less wrong. Why not put it out there? This life shouldn't be just about unicorns. It needs to be about lions, tigers, and little kittens as well.
And one of the beauties about podcasting to me in this space is if you can connect with the right people, then they all want you to win. This isn't, I don't need to make revenue from this show. We don't do the show for revenue. We have money through the companies that we own. We do it because sometimes these are questions I want to ask of people. The best way to be able to get them to actually answer them for me is to put a microphone out there and give them some value back in content themselves.
1,000%.
And the more I do this, the more people that I get a better understanding of the right kind of questions to ask, questions that go down the wrong path. I was telling somebody today, a buddy of mine who's over at Adweek, I was on with a guest and they were talking about their family and they were almost close to crying. I told this story earlier today as well. And I hurried up and changed the subject because I felt bad. They were about to cry and they were like, oh, you buried the lead. I was like, I don't want people to cry. But this podcast isn't a crying podcast. But I think
Emotions, it's a way of life, man. On planet Earth, you find them, but if you go to Mars, maybe not.
Yeah. The hope is that, as people continue to build podcasts, you find some ways to be able to bring them some value back and all share in some of that process. So I love seeing the fact that you guys are doing that, and I'm going to be in Atlanta soon. I'll definitely try.
Yeah, our goal, Sean, is very clear, right? I believe the industry is still evolving. There's a lot to be learned. I learn a ton myself when somebody asks Don and me, can you talk about blah? We had one of those yesterday. Somebody asked us about a topic that Don and I are not so proficient with, but it's one of our listeners. It's an industry change agent, and he wants to see this topic. Don and I are going to find a way to actually answer the question. We're going to source experts like you, and we're going to get answers out to people who want them. So I'll look forward to you being on the show.
Sure, I'm happy to do it.
What I would also love to learn from you when we get you out on the show is what is the right way to do a podcast so users can benefit the most from it, listeners can benefit the most from it. You talked about doing the wrong things. Also talk about the wrong things. Tell people what they shouldn't do.
Well, I think just taking the leap. That's the most important thing. Being willing to put yourself out there and not being scared that there are people that want to see me fail. I know that. There are people that question why in the world would I do this, especially when I have companies to run. But sometimes you just have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look beyond that.
Because life is fun, Sean.
Life is
Whatever
fun.
you touch is fun. And we have one life on planet Earth, at least until we're reborn, but who the heck knows if we are. But as long as you're here to have fun. You're here to make other people's life fun. You're here to uplift them. Are they going to be naysayers in the journey? Sorry, they are going to be. But you know what? You have to do what you feel is right. There's a simple school rule from second grade, Brinker Elementary in Plano, Texas, when my daughter went to school there. I actually lived in Texas for 8 years when I worked for Frito-Lay. And this is the heading. This was the motto of the school. It said, do whatever you want, as long as you don't do something negative to yourself or cause pain to someone else.
And so think of something like that, Sri. It's a message that was out of school for your daughter.
Second grade.
And it still sticks with
I've
you.
never forgotten it. Never forgotten it. And every single day in my house, we have that discussion at dinner table. What did you do today? How did your day go? And we're fortunate that we live in New York City, just down the road from here. And my daughter goes to NYU to Tisch, to the Clive Davis School of Music. And we get to see her on weekdays every now and then. She was home yesterday for dinner, and we have this conversation. What did you do today to ensure that whatever you did made you happy, but you didn't drag down somebody else? So it's something we practice in life now.
And so as marketers, you can take that and make that your own as well. That
1,000%.
That's the piece.
1,000%. Winning today, though, in marketing, larger brands, we have been raised in the philosophy that winning is about watching your competition. If you thought about history over the last 30, 40 years, the reason why winning was about competition was you were fighting for the limited shelf space in store. So there's only so many facings you can put on an 80-foot, 40-foot, 8-foot, depending on the platform, whether it's mass, whether it's drug channel, whatever it is. So winning share measurement is about the competition. Today's day and age in an unlimited shelf, facings is not an issue. So we have this debate about, is digital and e-commerce truly unlimited facings, or is there a cap to that as well? Of course, there's a cap to it, but the difference between an 80-foot shelf and a e-commerce shelf is 50x. So winning in an e-commerce shelf means anyone can win. If you obsess about the competition, you're limiting yourself to a share number. But if you obsess about what the consumer wants, there's no cap on who you are.
We've only got a couple minutes left.
That went by fast, Sean.
I'm telling you, man,
Oh
these
my
go by
gosh.
fast.
You got to have me back.
Yeah,
We didn't even get into the meat of this stuff.
I know. So that's, yeah, because I want to hit on something that you just said. I don't want to jump too far away from it because that was such a great point. I've never had anybody talk about unlimited shelf. I've never heard that terminology. We work with CPG brands all the time, and I've just never heard it equated down to such a basic way to be able to visualize that piece.
I'll tell you what else that unlimited shelf is doing. It's very straightforward thing that's hit large CPG in a big way. You know, growth typically came in the industry from the in-store business. Pretty straightforward, right? The in-store business is growing, the positive, net positive. Growth in the stores, 3%, 5%. All of us have those growth ambitions in brands as well for large CPG. But lately, last 5 years or so, once e-commerce and digital has kind of come into the industry, the issue the industry is struggling with or trying to respond to or leverage, call it what you may, is all the growth in many subcategories is coming via digital, no longer coming in store. So who wins digitally? Those that are dynamic, those literally people that are pulling SEM reports via the Amazon Seller Central and are willing to dynamically adapt their SEO keywords in their product content, including titles, on a weekly basis. Now, if you work for a large brand, that's not easy to do because you have reputation. Almost impossible to do. So it's I think the big industry kind of what do we do next is truly trying to be dynamic to adjust to how do you get what you feel is your right piece of that growth in a world that's significantly less complex now to launch anything and everything, and how you can be part of that ecosystem.
And the beauty of being able to tie that full circle is the fact that the data is right there. It's right there.
1,000%. Yeah.
As long as you know how to look at it.
And I think that's another big difference between today's advertising and yesterday's advertising. TV, even though some may argue there's a direct I believe TV, when GRP metrics, etc., put out over the course of time, is the only way to measure success in marketing, right? And it's the correlation is actually an induced one. This is known in the industry. And again, no secret formula over here. With digital, you can actually track. And you can get it down to your ROI can be gotten down and kind of fine-tuned and optimized down to the bone.
Well, and if you're willing to take the time to learn more, all they got to do is just listen to your podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Right,
and
sure.
yours.
We get there from time to time. Well, listen, we're almost out of time. This does go fast. That's the other thing we're working on. We're working on figuring out the right length of time. And as you do your podcast, as those of you that are out there trying to figure out how to do your own podcast or being marketers, again, this was not the initial intention of the episode to spend that much time talking about it, but content is such a key part of this piece. Some flexibility in the amount of time that you have when you're in the thick of it is always some of the beauty of it, correct?
1,000%, man. That's
How long
life.
are the episodes when you guys do them?
We're trying to keep them 10 minutes. They're video-based, and we're keeping it very purposeful and exactly what we want to answer in that episode. So we will evolve to more of a conversation. You'll see that in episode 8 if you look at it.
Yeah. Don't look at my first 7 or 8 episodes because it was just like that. They were short. They were 7, but you miss a chance to really dig into
Episode was out Monday, so you can see it on LinkedIn now. It's on YouTube, and it's more conversation.
LinkedIn. Gotta love it. Sri, the next step for you and I, it's building the new LinkedIn. We could call it Rajagopalan.
It's got to be a Sean element in it, man. You got to have the CMO Suite element in it.
We'll figure it out. Well, listen, Sri, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the CMO Suite. If you want to find out more about Sri, obviously, as I've just said, head to his LinkedIn page. We'll have more information about him on the CMOSuite.com. And thank you again so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for hanging out in the CMO Suite. The podcast for marketers who want to be in the know. Presented by Connectivity Holdings.
You're a C-level manager. You shouldn't have to know the difference between behavioral or contextual targeting, but your agency should. Uconnect provides brands and biddable teams direct access to platforms like The Trade Desk, Google, Amazon, Facebook, OTT, and more. Their US-based traders can train your in-house team or provide complete transparency with no minimums and CPM-based service pricing for true transparency. Something Mighty Hive, The Trade Desk, and Centro simply don't offer. Tired of being the smartest one in the room? Reach out to Uconnect today for a free demo. Uconnect, the world's leader in true transparent biddable media.